The H1B guy here, and today on the H1B guy responds, we answer the question posed on Twitter. What's the nexus between American Immigration Lawyers Association, AILA, and Senator Durbin? At RHL 15738352 asks the H1B guy to, quote, shed some light on nexus between so-called dirty immigration-friendly lawyers at AILA National and corrupt politicians at Senator Durbin when you get a chance. All major economies have moved to merit-based immigration, and U.S. couldn't even pass a simple immi bill in last 30 years. Hashtag S8386. Really appreciate you taking the time to reach out and get my take on this. I'll start with bearing the lead and making this statement. The value of one H1B is extremely high. This list includes monetary value for the employee who earns a prevailing wage, possibly even earning 2 to 3 times what they would earn in their home country, for the employer who's able to fill a critical need with a highly skilled resource, for the immigration attorneys who prepare and file immigration benefits for a nominal fee, and USCIS who charges a variety of fees depending on the visa being requested. Conducting a random search of data for the top 100 corporations in Salt Lake City shows us data from 2017. The top 100 corporations in the greater Salt Lake City area have at least 900 or more employees. Why did I pick Salt Lake City? Well, the question was asked by an individual that's located in Salt Lake City, and I found this link on zippia.com that shows the largest companies in Utah and their employee numbers. I'm going to guess with a fair amount of certainty and without personally knowing at RHL 15738252 that they or their spouse works for one of these companies on an H1B visa in Salt Lake City. The real interesting part here is that they're most likely not even counted in the overall organization employee numbers with the data. Let's use 1-800-CONTACTS as an example. Disclaimer, I am a customer of theirs. I love their service. I love their product, and I have never personally worked with them as a client. I'm going to assume, however, that they have several large development teams on site working on their different product lines. I'd also be willing to bet that 50% of those teams are working under a non-immigrant visa. Having personally worked in technology-based staffing for more than 15 years, I've been able to follow the evolution of several different work authorizations, including the H-1B visa. The U.S. has been a technology-driven society since the founding of our great nation. It's a staple of American culture. The question becomes, will it continue to be? The availability of high-skilled tech workers here in the U.S. is a critical element to answering that question and solving that equation. The truth lies with this fact. If they cannot be hired here in the U.S. because of lack of availability, companies will adapt to other options, such as nearshore or offshore outsourcing. We simply do not graduate enough programmers and developers from U.S. institutions of higher learning to keep up with demand for these resources in the technology sector, specifically in financial technology and healthcare technology. So let's get back to 1-800-CONTACTS in Salt Lake City. If they cannot hire the resources there in Salt Lake City to work on their various product lines on site, they will very quickly nearshore that work to Canada or Mexico or offshore it to one of the many other global options. If you recall the H1B Guy news from July 17th, 2020, where we discussed tech startups moving their development to Canada and seeing the quality work at 30% less cost becomes much more feasible option when they're seeing those kind of returns. These same facts also apply to those in the medical and education fields. Our supply simply does not meet our demand when it comes to specialized occupations. We need employment-based preferences for the growth of our economy. Do you want to see highly skilled technical jobs leave our borders or stay here and have them pay taxes based on their earnings? So let's get back to the question. What's the nexus between the AILA and Senator Durbin? Well, it really all comes down to one word, and that's money. A lot of money. Remember what we said at the beginning of the post and at the beginning of this video, where we buried the lead and said that the value of one H1B is extremely high. In our current system, H1B visa holders constantly need to file amendments, extensions, change of employers every 12 to 36 months. So there's a very long line of individuals making a lot of money off the preparation, filing, and processing of immigration benefits. And that's not to mention the employer or other parties involved who may be profiting off of the H-1B visa. So why has Senator Durbin decided to block S-386? Well, I personally believe it all comes down to money. As we mentioned last week on the H-1B Guy news for July 24th of 2020, where we watched the Senate debate on S-386 starting at the 7-minute 20-second mark all the way through the 9-minute and 20-second mark, where we get Senator Durbin's take and he discusses his stance on the real problem with S-386. He specifically targets the H-1B visa and the 50-50 rule with a 3-year timeline as the reason to hold the vote. He wants the term moved up, directly targeting the large integrators and not giving them a transition period to hit that 50% or less H-1B population. In my experience, 3 out of every 4 individuals who's worked for one of these large integrators willingly wants to leave once they've met their employment agreement obligations. A lot of times we even see these employment agreement obligations being held to what was signed and executed out of country in India specifically. With 90% of these individuals looking to leave solely based on green card sponsorship. Reason being, these integrators typically do not sponsor perm labor. Their numbers are fairly small. There are exceptions though, and I've come across my fair share of lifers at integrators who've been very well taken care of, have lived very productive lives, have excellent jobs, excellent family situation because they've been taken care of. But then there are stories, the 3 out of 4 that aren't. So mark my words right now that no matter who wins the upcoming election in November, expect to see some very significant reform around the H-1B visa in the next presidential term. I'm sensing a large decrease in HCAP fiscal year quota for possibly 2021, but definitely 2022 and forward, and more stringent rulings on the employee-employer right of control, specifically with cases that are not direct sponsorship. Thanks again to RHL 1573-8352 for the question. While this may not be the answer you're looking for, I hope it's given you a different perspective. It really all comes down to one word, and that's money. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. As always, please like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.